Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Maximize Excellence. I'm Lori Harris. I'm your host, and I'm managing partner of Harris Whitesell Consulting. And I'm real excited again for another great dialogue with another great leader. And before I introduce our guest today, I do want to do a shout out to Miss Sarah Benkin and also Michelle Holmes, both with No Women. Sarah is our CEO at No Women, and Michelle is the territory owner for No Women in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I just want to say I would not have met our guest had it not been for those two beautiful and amazing, remarkable women. So I just want to give them a shout out today. And I also want to shout out to my business partner, Lynn Whitesell, as well. So today, I'm excited because we're going to talk about healthy living, health lifestyle, and we're going to do that with Dr. Susan Lovell. And Susan is the founder and CEO of Premier Wellness. Believe it or not, Susan was a former plastic surgeon. So we're going to talk about that a little bit today as well. She offers an all-in-one lifestyle health solution for busy professionals, entrepreneurs, and organizations. And Susan specializes in boosting personal energy, optimizing weight, and balancing hormones to unlock peak performance in every aspect of life. And I can go on and on and on. There's so much more. She's been featured in The Doctors, the docuseries Exhausted, Lifetime TV, Forbes, No Women, Good Morning Washington, Good Day Charlotte. She's written a book called Thrive, the 5-week guide to mastering your energy at any age, which is available on Amazon. And we will make a post to that link after the show today, after the broadcast. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Susan Lovell.
Oh, thank you so much, Lori. That was spectacular. And it's always so wonderful to have women of excellence together. So you're right. We met at a no event and it grew into this.
It did. It definitely did. So I'm going to ask you some questions today, Susan, and let's really dive into this topic of maximizing our presence, the executive presence through this lifestyle health. And before we jump into that specific topic of health, I want to know, surgeon, and here you are today as business owner, entrepreneur in the health arena. But what was the transition from plastic surgeon? So what was the inspiration for pursuing a career in the medical field and particularly plastic surgery? And why did you leave plastic surgery?
So to answer that question, I'm actually going to take it back even another step. And I'm going to tell you my very first career, which was professional ballet. I was a professional ballet dancer for almost 17 years. And a lot of what happened later is what was kind of teed up when I was dancing. Because you can imagine when you're a dancer, you have to be rail thin, you're dieting all the time, you're pushing your body to the max all the time. And while I was young and could get away with it, that was fine. But then I started seeing some things later. So let's jump into plastic surgery. Why did I go into plastic surgery? I knew I wanted to be in medicine when I was 6. I fell in love with my pediatrician, told him I'm going to be a doctor someday. He said, come on back when you're ready. 20 years later, he remembered me when I went back. He wrote me a letter, and I know that had a lot to do with me getting into medical school. So I'm in medical school, and you actually rotate through all of the specialties. And I did internal medicine, family medicine. And all I could say was the same people came in every single month with the same issues. If they had diabetes, they came back every month, got their medication, went out with the diabetes. If they had high blood pressure, same thing. And I said, I can't do that for the rest of my life. There's no change. There's no transformation. And then I did a rotation in plastic surgery. Oh my goodness. It was, someone came in one way, I did something, they went out another way. I said, this is it. This is what I've got to do. And I did that for 22 years. I loved it. And if I could still probably do just the surgery without everything else, I might. But what was happening as I was in plastic surgery, I was in places where I was the only plastic surgeon for almost an hour in any direction. People would have to drive that far. So you can imagine I was very busy. I was also raising my kids at that time. And between burning the candle on the plastics end and on the personal end, and eating a whole lot, I
Right.
eating a lot because I was tired a lot. And so a lot of the times, and we'll talk about that maybe, how a lot of busy people will turn to coffee or caffeine or sugar to boost their energy temporarily. We'll talk a little bit about that. Well, I was doing that and eventually ended up in the intensive care unit 3 times in the space of 1 year.
Wow.
First time, I didn't listen, went right back to what I was doing. Second time, still didn't listen, went right back to what I was doing. The third time, I almost didn't make it out of the hospital. And that was the time that I said, okay, I have got to change what I'm doing. And by this time, I was so exhausted. The only thing I could do was change how I ate. And so I started eating better and I started feeling better. And then one by one, I added a lot of the things we'll talk about today to increase my energy, to increase my presence at work. And that's why I do what I do now, because now I don't just change someone from the outside in, I'm changing them from the inside out.
And executive presence, truly, when we consider it from a true physical presence and emotional presence, and also from a competency perspective,
Oh,
it
absolutely.
is all within. You're
It's
right.
all within. It's
It's
like,
all
yeah,
within.
if you're exhausted, what can you do? What can you do for yourself? What can you do for anyone else if you're exhausted?
Right. So, what is lifestyle health and how does it differ from traditional Western medicine?
Okay, wonderful question. I kind of gave you an idea of what Western medicine is. Western medicine is excellent with emergencies and trauma. Okay, when there's
Uh-huh.
an immediate issue, you want to be in Western medicine. You want someone to take you to surgery or, to fix your broken bone or whatever that is in the moment. But most of dis-ease, most of illness, especially in the United States, is really that chronic stuff. The
Yeah.
things, like I said, the diabetes, the high blood pressure, the overweight, those things that just stay with you unless you make some specific changes. Now, in Western medicine, the answer is to diagnose it and then treat it, whether it's a pill, a treatment, a surgery, diagnosis and treatment. That's it. It's not that there's nothing really focused on prevention. And I tell people I had 2 weeks of nutrition in medical school, 2 whole weeks out of 4 years.
Wow.
So, what are you going to learn in that period of time? Nothing. So that's Western medicine. It's, have an ill, I call it the have an ill, take a pill sort of syndrome. And lifestyle medicine, on the other hand, is just what it sounds like. There are all different names for what it's been called: functional medicine, integrated medicine. But I like lifestyle medicine because it's clear. It's saying when you make changes in your lifestyle, the things that you're doing every day, you can change the expression of even down to your DNA. You can reverse things like diabetes and high blood pressure. You can take care of hormonal issues, which I love dealing with. These are the things that get better when you change your lifestyle. And it's so easy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so, why did you choose to focus on hormones as a basis of weight loss solutions for leaders and executives, as well as for corporate clients?
Right. So that was, it's more of a development. So when I first came out, I was still, I'll be totally honest, I was still kind of in that Western thought of if you need to lose weight, you need to exercise more and eat less, period. That was kind of what we were doing. And then I added a little bit of, maybe we'll have you eating special things, maybe a specific type of meal, that kind of thing. And I finally got to the place where people were losing significant amounts of weight, maybe, 20 to 30 pounds in 6 to 8 weeks, which is significant.
It is.
It really was. But the issue that I was seeing, which is the same issue that, what is the show, The Greatest Loser,
Yeah.
where they lose all of this weight. The issue that I was seeing is that people didn't keep it off because they weren't learning what they needed to change in their own lifestyles. And so slowly but surely, I added the things in that would help, them to actually anchor these into their life. And the biggest thing that I saw was that when you have your hormones working for you, you're not struggling anymore. When you have, yeah.
That's so true. Oh,
Exactly. Things like, we think of, women think of estrogen and progesterone. Those are huge, but
there's so
also
much
testosterone, right?
there's so much more.
Exactly. Testosterone, which we think of as a male hormone, but we
Yes.
need that for muscle growth and for motivation. We need those. Cortisol, like right now, everyone's been stressed this last couple of years. So
Yes.
cortisol levels are like up in the stratosphere.
Right.
Cortisol is what I call a fat storing hormone. It makes you store fat. So, the higher your cortisol levels are, the harder it's going to be for you to lose weight. So when we learn about these hormones that impact our weight, we start shedding the weight that we don't want without struggle.
And feeling just life changes for the better. It's amazing. Yeah, I am definitely. Mine was progesterone and vitamin D.
Oh, vitamin D is another huge thing. And so many people are deficient. Yeah.
Yes. That was me, definitely. Yeah. So, what's an example of how, and I love this question. What's an example of how imbalanced hormones impact productivity and performance in the workplace, and what strategies can leaders implement to mitigate these effects?
Okay, great. So let me just pick one hormone.
Okay.
Let's pick insulin. Okay.
Okay.
So, if you're a diabetic or diabetics, you may be familiar with that. But insulin is the hormone that brings our blood sugar down. And like we eat sugar or really any kind of carbohydrate, sometimes even proteins, it'll make our blood sugar rise.
Mm-hmm.
And what we want, that sugar, we need the sugar because that's what our body uses for energy, but it's got to get into the cells for that to happen. That's what insulin does. It brings the sugar into the cells so the cells can work. Well, think back to that executive who's guzzling a whole bunch of coffee with cream and sugar, eating a whole bunch of short carbohydrates that are going to give you that little quick boost to keep going. Well, if you keep doing that, eventually what happens is your body says, I can't do this anymore.
Right.
And the cells don't get the sugar that they need. Well, that means not just your gut cells, it means your heart cells. Your heart is not going to work the way it should. Your muscles are not going to work the way they should. Your brain, because your brain lives on sugar, your brain is not going to work the way it should. So,
right.
Yeah.
In the work we do around talent management, when we work on executive coaching from a behavioral component, we talk about the 3 intelligences and the 3 intelligence centers: the heart, the head, and the gut.
Yes.
And how you have to have whole body awareness. And I truly, when I first met you and we were talking with you and I was just listening to everything that you do, I thought, what a nice compliment the 2 of us are, and the 3 of us actually are in all of this, in that, you work on the true health and well-being of the physical components of all the organs and the body itself and such. And where I found it just very complimentary is we work on the behavioral components and how in executive presence, it's critical for success and to be effective. It's critical that you have this well-being around those three intelligences and those three centers of energy, right?
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
I'm so glad that that's actually starting to come out in the science. What we tended to know through our gut before,
Yes.
that, yeah, our gut is really kind of controlling a bit, and our heart. And the fact that, we all think that it's our brain that's controlling everything. And what we're
No.
seeing more and more is that our heart is telling our brain what to do, our gut is telling our brain what to do. And it's this orchestra that we need to keep going. Yeah.
And very powerful.
Mhm.
And to really own and understand these basic emotions and these basic feelings, because that's the way the body talks to us, and it sends it to certain areas in the body, right?
Yes, yes,
Yeah. And
exactly.
and when we pay more attention to ourselves versus others, we often find that we are more effective.
Exactly.
And I think this question, when we talk about these imbalances and being able to recognize them and find them. So I think it's important, this next question is all about the misconceptions that
Mhm.
are out there and the myths that are out there about hormone imbalance, and how leaders in and organizations can help educate their employees, themselves, and their employees, and support themselves and their teams, right? In understanding these issues and how important that is.
Oh, absolutely. As a matter of fact, I just got a request to speak for a company who wanted me to speak about menopause and the changes in menopause. Right? Right? It's like, yes, finally. Not in the sense of, we're going to put the women over in this little corner because they're going through menopause, but so that the entire organization could understand the changes that are happening, and make adjustments to have that happen. So,
Right.
for instance, if in menopause, we're going to be totally honest, as estrogen fluctuates, as progesterone really starts, trending down,
Right.
things start to change. Your energy levels change, your mood changes. Those hot flashes that we're not even going to go into today. All of these things are part, or can be part, of menopause, and how we can get around them, how we can change them, how we can adjust them by making lifestyle changes, like we were just saying. But also, when you understand the process, it's not as difficult to go through. You know what I mean? When we understand that these changes are not unusual, that they are normal to some extent, and
Right.
that we can mitigate them by the things that we do each day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And two, I read a lot about well-being and health lifestyle. So is it true that a lot more women are having earlier menopause these days?
They yes, yes, in some instances. And I think a lot of it has to do with the amount of hormones that we're getting in our diet.
Ah,
Okay.
yeah.
So as a plastic surgeon, what I saw was that, one of the surgeries that I did was for something called macromastia, large breasts. Okay. So doing breast reductions on them. And I was seeing younger and younger and younger patients with very large breasts. And,
Right.
when you think about it, milk has hormones in it. A lot of the foods that we eat have hormones, but it's not just that. It's also the chemicals that we're putting on our body. And
Yeah.
I tell this not a story, but I tell this fact that the typical woman puts 168 different chemicals on her body every day. 168. So, our bodies aren't made for that. They don't recognize a lot of them. And so it puts us in havoc, in crisis mode
Yeah.
sometimes,
Yeah.
because of the things we're putting on our bodies, eating and placing. And so, yeah, we are seeing much, much younger changes in hormones, which would, go along with early menopause, and large breasts, various things like that. PCOS, if you're familiar with that, polycystic ovarian syndrome, where women tend to they can make cysts on their ovaries, polycystic, okay, but they also have issues with extra hair growth and having difficulty losing weight. So difficulties like that with hormones are increasing exponentially.
This is very insightful. And so, what's some of the evidence based strategies for reducing stress and fatigue in high pressure work environments, and particularly for leaders and executives? So, we're shifting a little bit. I mean, it feels like we're shifting a lot, but I think it's tied quite well together.
Yes,
So,
yes.
yeah, what are those strategies?
Yeah. So if you think about there's an old saying, there's an old Zen saying that you should meditate an hour every day.
Right.
Unless you don't have the time, and then you should meditate for 2. So that, what that is saying is that we think, a lot of times I ask people, how many hours do you think you need to sleep every night? I just put that out there. And I get 4, 5, 6, not infrequently, from people who are in the CEO, the C-suite levels, like that, because for 2 reasons. One, they feel that they don't need the sleep because they've gotten to a certain level, but 2, they feel that they can't do the work that they need to do in the hours that they have every day, in those
Right.
hours. And so they shorten their sleep every single day. Well, when you do that, your hormones can't readjust, your body can't readjust, your brain can't detoxify and rejuvenate itself. And so by shortening your sleep hours, those important hours, you're actually decreasing your productivity. So that's a huge, that is probably one of the easiest things you can do to boost your productivity, to boost your energy, and to start really balancing your hormones, is to start getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep every day, 7 to 9. And, if you're used to sleeping 4, you're going to go, I can't do that. And you probably can't right away. But if you start taking it back 15 minutes every couple of days, it may take you a while to get there, but
Right.
you will. And instead of having fewer hours in the day, you'll actually be more productive because your brain's going to be firing the way it should be.
Right.
Mhm.
Exactly. Oh gosh. And so since you mentioned sleep, there, this meditation piece,
Mhm.
uh, in particular with sleep, turning off devices and setting up your room for that type of sleep that's needed. The
Absolutely.
temperature of the room, all these things, there's enough study out there now that's all over the internet
Mhm.
that tells us that we really need to be more intentional, I guess is the right
Yes.
word,
Yes. Yeah.
about really taking care of these 2 little things. Because meditation is one of the most powerful pauses, I believe,
Mhm.
for every organ in the body. Well, I call it resetting. It just resets. I don't know what you call it, but for me, it's almost a reset.
Mhm. Mhm.
And learning different breathing techniques and playing with those and really paying attention to how your body's responding to that in meditation. But then with sleep, that's where we go back into a natural organic state in my mind.
Yes.
And the body goes, whoo,
Exactly.
it almost releases and breathes, takes a deep breath, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's the big reset. That's kinda like the big bang. That's the one
And
that's
we
really
need it. We need it every night, and we need a certain amount of it every night. And you can't get it
yeah,
in 4 hours. I'm
yeah,
just going to be straight out. And I love what you were talking about, which is sleep hygiene. We call it sleep hygiene. Having the quiet, dark room, having it cool because your body doesn't really like to sleep in a lot of heat.
right.
Not having any screens, the computer screens or the phone screens right before you're going to bed. Things like that, that sleep hygiene, that is absolutely the first thing that you do if you're struggling with sleeping.
Mm,
Rather than saying, okay, I can't sleep, let me go take either a sleeping pill, which we really don't want to do, or which is, maybe we call it green pharmacy, which is let me go take some melatonin because,
Right.
people have heard melatonin is a sleep drug, and it's going to, not drug, hormones, going to help you go to sleep.
Right.
Well, it will if that's your problem, but there are so many different reasons why people don't sleep, and melatonin is not going to address all of them. It's good for helping you go to sleep if you are deficient in melatonin. It has nothing to do really with you staying asleep in a restful state throughout the night. So a lot of us will take huge doses of melatonin trying to get that restful sleep, and we're still not, because it's not the melatonin. So thanks for bringing that up. There are so many different reasons why you may not be sleeping well.
Yeah. And do you teach different meditation techniques and styles?
We
in your
do. We
practice?
do. Now, I have to say that a lot of the people that I work with feel that they can't meditate because like I said, they don't have the time, or they don't have the patience, or they don't like to sit still. And so one of the things that I like to tell them is, you do not have to sit with your legs crossed and your fingers, you don't have to sit like that to meditate. You can actually meditate as you're walking
That's
in the
right.
outdoors. Meditation is mind and body. It's not just how your body is sitting in this rigid sort of pose. So that's probably the biggest thing that we bring across to the people that we work with, is that there are all different ways to meditate and to bring your awareness to a different space.
Ah,
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
it.
Mhm.
Love it. Awareness. Yeah. And okay, so why do people neglect this? Because it's so, especially professional. I mean, you talked about this time, don't have enough time. There's always this time issue, right? But why do they neglect their own self-care?
Um, I've seen for several reasons. One
Yeah.
of them is they may not recognize the need for it. That's probably the simplest thing. They don't understand that this is something that is not, it's not a luxury, it's a necessity, an absolute necessity. So that's one. Two, there are people who have this weird idea of what self-care is. They think it's all bubble baths and massages. And,
Yeah.
which are great if you like bubble baths and massages, but that is not it. Self-care is really defined as you doing something that brings you joy,
Mm,
doing the things that your body and mind and spirit enjoy. And I've had coders who say, my idea of self-care is coming home from work and doing some coding. I mean, they love that.
love
That
it.
brings them joy. I've had others who go mountain climbing. That's their idea of self-care. It really is whatever it is that brings your body into alignment and lets you recognize that you love it.
Uh-huh. You mentioned joy. Joy is an emotion, it's a feeling, and joy is energy.
Yes.
And not only do we create it, we exude it, right?
We
And
better.
what I love that you brought this into play, because I love the study that Mayo did, that most humans can only have the capacity for about 20-25% of joy. I think it's 20%
Mm.
of joy each day. They have to have challenge. They have to have the ability to explore, to discover, to validate, to really look at something and decipher it, so that
Mhm.
we can make better decisions. That's part of consciousness, that's part of cognition. So joy isn't a constant state.
No.
Joy is it's an actual achievement of experience, of because of an emotion, because of a feeling. And when we're not in tune and we're not aware, full body aware,
Mhm.
because when we feel joy, it goes to certain places, right?
Oh, yes.
Right. And I love it, because joy is such a high frequency energy. So this isn't about spirituality. This is true
True
biology.
biology. It's
Yes.
it's off certain hormones. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So the realization and the understanding of, we actually can create that. We don't have to rely on others. We don't, it was just profound for me about 20 years ago when I came across some of these studies, and I went, oh, what, I've been doing this all wrong. It's like, wow. And joy is that energy, the way that it works for the body is so beautiful. And the way that it treats the organs is quite amazing. I mean, it's miraculous in many ways. And where you said earlier, this is why I love what you do, because where you talked about earlier how we can actually, through our own efforts, change our conditions.
Yes.
And I think it's because of this managing our energies sometimes is part of it, right?
Absolutely.
So I love what you do. This is why I love her, you guys. I'm going, she's she's got a bigger, better mindset than ever I could. And this is the stuff I love. So yes, I think in these areas where people do neglect this self-care piece, and you talked about, this weird idea of self-care, the language that's been either simplified or over exaggerated in many ways. And so with the masses, and given the state of humanity and the level of what's going on out there with health, I think you couldn't be in a better place right now for what you do. I love it. And so how does language, how hard or easy is it for you with getting the language out there and helping people readjust their definitions of some of these words?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So that, as I started in the beginning saying, the reason I changed what I do to lifestyle medicine was to make it more clear.
Yeah.
The school that I went to after medical school was called the School of Applied Functional Medicine. Shout out to them. Love their courses. But when I said, what do you do? And I said, I'm a functional medicine provider or physician. What does that mean to you? People would look at me with this blank look. Oh, like, okay, that's nice. Had no clue. Same thing really with integrative medicine, and alternative medicine has almost at this point gotten a little bit of a negative connotation to it, the alternative and holistic. So I wanted something, just the title of what I do to be more clear, just lifestyle. What are you eating? How are you moving? How are you sleeping? What are your hormones doing? What are your stress levels? How are you loving yourself and the world? So that's step one. But then the next step that you're talking about is, how do we start changing the whole conversation about health? How do we get the people who feel, well, mom had diabetes, everybody in my family has it, so I'm going to have it too. Yes. Same thing with high blood pressure. How do we change that conversation? And the only way we can do that is by showing them that step by step, you can reverse the expression of your DNA. You're not going to change your genes. You can't do that, but you can change how they express, how they show up in your life. And that's the exciting part. That's the change that we've got to make in the conversation, that it's not, healthcare right now, traditional Western healthcare is not healthcare. It's sick care.
Yeah.
It's sick care. We want wellness producing.
And ladies and gentlemen, in full disclosure, I'm not a patient of Dr. Lovelle, and nor is my business partner. We believe in what she does. I mean, it definitely plays a role in how we work with our clients in developing cultures and organizations and developing leaders and developing executives and working with high potentials. And so it definitely plays a role in some of the content that we share and that we work with and the exercises we do. but by no means do we do what you do. And definitely I can see where if there ever was and the need, we would refer. Very powerful, very, very powerful. And I know for myself personally, I can speak to the work you do. Early on, 20 years ago, I had early menopause and nobody wanted to believe me. Nobody wanted to understand that at that time. And every doctor I went to wanted to put me on birth control. And that was not the solution. It did not support or help me. And I was raised to challenge those types of, people call them authorities, and ask more questions. I was raised to be very curious and ask lots of questions. And so I had to fire a lot of doctors because I couldn't get beyond, the prescription of
Exactly. Yeah.
When I found the solution, though, it was immediate night and day difference in my life, in my health and well-being. Immediate. So I can be a big advocate for what you do because I've been there, done that, experienced it. And the more curious I got about it, the more I learned about it. I think it's part of what led me to be in this business I'm in and do what I do, because it does create higher levels of energy for my day so I can prioritize things and I can really put myself into those and achieve the productivity levels and the goals and realize success and have the kind of life I want. Yeah. This next question I think is another good, we've had there's some good questions here. So how can leaders promote self-care practices and stress reduction techniques within their teams to enhance overall well-being and to mitigate effects of hormone imbalances? Now, I'm going to say this. I've asked this question. Most leaders, if there are hormone imbalances in their workplace, they don't use that kind of language. They don't talk about it.
Right.
Yeah. So definitely it does involve human resources. It does involve leaders working collaboratively with human resources to develop certain types of program and language and services. So talk about how they can do that and how they can promote these.
Okay. The very first thing they've got to do is believe it.
Yeah.
Believe that it actually works. Okay. That it's not just like this little box that they're checking off, to say, okay, we did this sort of thing.
Yep.
They've got to believe that it works. They've got to believe that it works for their employees. And they also have to believe that it works for them. So it really needs to be a top-down kind of approach. If you are saying to your staff, to your company, do it this way, but they see that you're always in the office 24/7, never did. There's so much of a disconnect that it will never sit. You have to make those changes yourself first,
right?
And then believe they work and then bring them out to the organization, to be honest.
Yeah, exhibiting and demonstrating behaviors that are effective. Yeah, I think is key and critical. And this is a behavior of that health bucket, of that well-being bucket.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right. And you were talking about language and that the executive is not going to talk about hormonal balance. And that's something that I have learned when I'm doing corporate wellness programs. I don't go in necessarily talking about are your hormones, unless they ask for it. I'm going in talking about efficiency, about productivity, about energy, about their bottom line. Okay?
Yes.
They see that they understand.
Yes.
And when we make these changes, this is what's going to happen. Employee retention, because now they're happier, they feel better. You're not having this constant turnover and all of the expense that goes into that. So there are so many different ways that you can come to the same end just by saying it a little differently. So that
you haven't said this word, but I hear it, and correct me if I'm wrong. You almost customize programs to organizations and to the need that's within the organization.
Absolutely.
So whether it's an individual or it's a group of
Even
Individuals.
exactly.
Yeah.
So with individuals, I have the data with their testing, their
Uh-huh.
personal history. So that's one thing. That's easy to customize. But
Uh-huh.
with a company, it's just as important. And so a lot of times I will do, before I even come in, I will have them send me like a short form where if employees want to answer it, they can, to let me know specifically what that company is struggling with. What does it look like in their particular company? And then you customize what you're giving. That's really the only way that health going forward is going to work.
Excellent. All right, Susan. So what do you love most about lifestyle health?
Oh, the changes. Seeing people change, seeing that light come on in their eyes, when they try something and it works, especially if they've been struggling for a long time. They've made this change. And then that ripple effect, because they've made the changes and people are seeing how their lives change. And then people around them are changing. So that ripple just keeps going out further and further. That's what lifestyle medicine is all about.
Change is good,
Change
and
is
change is ever present.
We might as well embrace it, right? And go in the right direction.
Oh, we love change. We love change. Curiosity is our best friend, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, what's the one thing that you would love to leave with our listeners, with the audience?
Mm. My thing that I would love to leave with everyone is that you are the leader of your own health. Your body knows exactly what it needs at this stage in life. Okay. It knows, and when you listen to it, when you listen to what your body is trying to tell you, it will tell you. And then you can let go of whatever isn't serving you at this particular stage in your life. And finally, you just live your own version of thriving. And that's why I called myself the Thrive Architect.
You are.
You design your own thrive.
I love that. I love that. You need to get a t-shirt that says I'm
How
the
about
Thrive
that?
Architect. Yeah. Yeah, I can envision it. Definitely. Well, Lynn and I have been very blessed to be able to work with Dr. Lovell, and I want her to share that this week, actually, just a couple days from now, Dr. Lovell is hosting a virtual summit, and it's a 2-day summit. I believe everybody that taps in and tunes into this broadcast is going to want to poke in and take advantage of and listen in and tune in. I know Lynn and I are enjoying being engaged with you in this process with the summit and being a speaker at your summit as well,
Yeah.
and such. So why don't you tell everybody about the 2-day virtual summit?
Oh, thank you so much. It's called the Beautiful Balanced Boss Summit. And boss in our world stands for bold, optimistic, strong, and successful. So we want to be that boss, but we also want to have that balance in our lives. And so this summit is a group of industry experts, including Lori and Lynn, who are talking about different aspects of what it means to have the presence that you need, to have the productivity that you need, to have the energy that you need without burning yourself out in the meantime. So it is 2 days. Their session is on mastering the pivot. And when I first heard this story, I was just blown away. So I said, you have got to tell your story and say how you came about to be where you are today. So various stories like that. And I'm going to be talking about hormones. I'm going to be talking about work-life balance, various discussions over the 2 days. So excited.
It is. And everyone, there's no registration fee.
No.
Like with a lot of these online webinars and summits, there are registration fees. This one, there's no registration fee. And so definitely take advantage. The individuals, here is the link you can see. We'll also post the link after the live broadcast today on LinkedIn on the Maximize Excellence podcast post. And so make sure you take a peek, get registered. And I will say the other speakers that are involved, I know there's a couple other No women. I saw Deanne Dupree. I love her. She's going to come and talk about that presence of the way we dress, the way we look. And yes, it does matter.
It does matter.
It does matter. It doesn't matter. Now, this is what's interesting. I do want to say this. I want to say, give her a little bit of grace here and support, because Deanne is a superior expert at ensuring that people are dressed for success, as well as being comfortable in their own skin and clothes.
Yes. Yeah.
And she's such a joy.
It was so much fun.
She is. She's dynamic. And so there's her. I know Sarah's going to be on there. I know Michelle's going to be on there, but you have others. So mention some of the other individuals, because you went broad on this, and I think you brought in some really key players. So talk a little bit about the others.
So we have Kashif Khan. He's the CEO of the DNA company, and he's going to be talking about sleep. You think we touch sleep? He's diving deep into the DNA. We have Sonia Jackson-Miles, who's the head of the Sister Accord, and she has put together an international corporation with teaching women how to join together in sisterhood. Dr. Paulette Evans is speaking on authenticity. How do we become our authentic selves? I have Dr. Sandra Lewis, who's speaking about burnout. Anybody experience any of that?
It's like it's real.
Nah. And Brad Walsh, who is the head of the Empowerography podcast. So his thing is, he is a man whose podcast is only about empowering women. That is it. That's who he has on this theme, and just so many others that are on. Oh, Mika Gumi's, what's her name? Mika Leah from Gumi Group. So I'm putting all the names all together. And she is the head of the Gumi Group, and she does corporate wellness across the country, and wanted to make it so that anyone who wants to bring that wellness into their companies, into their corporations, could have it. So just a few of the people who are going to be speaking.
Yeah, and you have some hidden surprises as well, I think, that are there. So we'll make sure we tease a little bit about getting out there and taking advantage of those as well. Susan, as always, I mean, we're just getting to know you, and I will say, in all of our research and all of our experiences with you, it's been pure joy, and it's been just lovely. You are an eloquent, very caring, very nurturing, very open, and joyful human being. And your professionalism, your ability to connect with people and provide a high quality service is impeccable. I commend you, my friend, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you. We will.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much.
And look forward to seeing everybody at the beautiful Balanced Boss Summit too, in the next couple days, actually. And everyone, thank you again. And I hope that you enjoyed today's discussion, and you consider giving Susan a call and talking with her about your healthy lifestyle as well. And until then, have a great day. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Maximize Excellence. Visit our events page on our website for details on upcoming podcasts, and visit our YouTube channel to listen to past episodes. And remember to ask yourself at the end of each day, did I do my best to maximize excellence today?